Hey everybody, this is Andrew Hutchinson with HawgBeat, the Arkansas site in the Rivals Network. The Diamond Hogs are still number one in all the polls, and they are welcoming Georgia to Baum-Walker Stadium for a three-game series this weekend. Just like last week when I talked to David Folse of Tiger Details, I wanted to give y'all kind of an inside look at the Hogs' upcoming opponent, and no one covers the Bulldogs better than Anthony Dasher with our friends over at UGASports.com, the Georgia Rivals site. Anthony, thanks for taking time to talk to us. How are you?
Hey, my pleasure. Doing well.
First off, I was wondering if you could kind of give us a broad, 10,000 feet view of what Georgia's season has been like. I mean, they cracked the top 25 last week and
hmm
then had their disappointing weekend against Auburn.
Yeah, and it's in a lot of ways it's been a year of rebuilding. Last year, of course, no COVID killed everybody, but Georgia in particular was they had Emerson Hancock, they had Cole Wilcox, two of your better starters in the league. Those guys are gone, and this year's been pretty much a rebuilding season in a lot of respects. They're starting three freshman position players, half for most of the year. Starting pitching has been, other than Ryan Webb, has been pretty inconsistent. And bullpen, they've had to throw eight true freshmen this year. So as you well know, in this league, you throw true freshmen, you're going to have some good moments. You also have some bad moments. So it's just been a matter of consistency for this team. Now, when they play well, they play really, really good. I mean, they went to Vanderbilt and won two or three. I mean, handed Kumar Rocker his only loss of the year. It's a team that has potential. It's a gritty team. I don't believe they're gonna. It's intimidating. It is going to Arkansas and play. I don't think that's going to bother them all that much. It's a team that really kind of takes out the coach Strickland's just kind of the way he is. He's a real kind of a gritty type coach, and they play the same type of way. But overall, you mentioned last weekend they had finally got to 500 in the SEC play after starting year 3-6. At least two or three to Auburn. They kind of back where they started a little bit. One game under 500, and now have the challenge of going to Arkansas, going to Florida next week before closing out the season against Ole Miss. So that's a tough little 3 weeks the Bulldogs have in front of them.
And you mentioned that Vanderbilt series. I think that kind of caught everybody's attention and
Yeah,
caught everybody a little bit by surprise. And they lost their first three series of the season, including one of them to A&M, which is
yeah,
really struggling this year.
yeah.
Did that Vandy series kind of help turn things around? I mean, it looks like
No,
they
no
won
doubt.
three straight. I mean, what did that kind of do for them?
Oh, no doubt. And then I'll even go back a few days before that. On the Tuesday before, they lost to Georgia Southern. One of their in-state rivals, and they were just played terrible. I mean, they really honestly did. And Players were down. But Coach Strickland took that as a moment to kind of challenge the manhead a little bit. And they went to Nashville again with the prospect of facing Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter in back-to-back games, coming off as poorly as they played, and really did, really did well. And yeah, so it was a turning point. I mean, they thumped Vanderbilt, on that Thursday game against Rocker, and against Jack Leiter, Ryan Webb went toe to toe. It was a 0-0 game to the eighth inning. Vanderbilt ultimately won that game, but Ryan Webb, who's going to get to start Friday, was incredible. I mean, gave up only like three or four hits, struck out like 12 or 13 batters, and was really dominant. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it did turn their season around, and now they've got to see though if they can kind of from the disappointment this past week if they can kind of flip it back a little bit more, at least get one win against Arkansas, but that's not going to be easy, in itself.
And you mentioned earlier, about losing Emerson Hancock, Cole Wilcox last year to the
hmm
draft. Looking at the stats, I mean, it looks like Ryan Webb has been pretty good this year, and it feels
hmm
like he's been there forever.
Yeah.
What kind of season is he having, and what's kind of the scouting report on him?
Ryan is used to be the closer, in 2019 when Georgia, earned the national city. He was the closer, had nine saves that year, but then they converted him to a starter, and this year has been pretty good. I mean, he pitched great against Auburn and got Georgia's only win the other day. The thing with Ryan Webb, you know, for those who don't know, he's a lefty. He'll top out at about 95 miles per hour, so he's got good velocity. Sometimes he can have trouble spotting the fastball, and that's something you'll be able to see, I think, early on. Friday. If he's on with a fastball and putting it where he wants it, then I think he can give Arkansas a tough time. They'll make it hard for him. But because he has a very good changeup, very good slider, mixes his pitches well, and he'll get a ton of strikeouts. He's averaging well over a strikeout per inning, and teams can have trouble barreling him up. So if he's on, he's going to give Arkansas a tough time. But after that, I like it gets a little dicey for Georgia. But Ryan Webb, though, has potential to pitch as well as really as anybody in the league, and we've seen that, like I said, because he did match Jack Leiter pitch for pitch, strikeout for strikeout when they played up in Nashville a month ago.
Yeah, and behind him is kind of where I was going to ask you about next.
Hmm.
I mean, it looks like Jonathan Cannon has been kind of the game two guy, but I noticed last few weeks it's been good old TBA for game three.
Yeah.
What's it look like behind Webb?
Well, I'll start with Cannon, who has potential. I mean, again, he pitched very well. He won. He won I'm sorry, the Saturday game, the final game against Vanderbilt. He's a guy who early in the year is projected to be a first round draft pick. He's got great stuff. He'll hit 95, 96. But again, consistency with the breaking ball has been a problem for him, and teams have had some success over the past 2 weeks. He'll get the start on Saturday, but that Sunday TBA, that's really kind of a problem for Georgia. This is with a lot of teams in the league right now. Just can't really seem to settle on that third starter for Georgia. It's been true freshman Luke Wagner, but Luke has been, really been very ineffective over the past couple of weeks. He's a left-hander. He was their top signee from Pennsylvania, top signee they had, this past year. Those in the low 90s, three pitch pitcher. He pitched well against Texas A&M. He pitched well in some other games, but just again, the last 3 or 4 weeks is not. It seems like the league has caught up with him a little bit. Has not been as effective, but they do now. They have a couple of pitchers that are behind him that I think are pretty good. Jaden Woods, who's another left-hander. You'll see him in Georgia's rotation in next year. He's what do you say, 6'2", about 195 pounds, and actually has the best spin rate of any pitcher on the Bulldog team. He's a guy. What they like to do, they like that perfect world for Coach Strickland. They'll let Luke Wagner, go 3 or 4 innings, and they'll bring in Jaden Webb, who will pitch the next 3 or 4. Again, he's been very effective doing that. He's got a couple of wins. He'll strike out a lot of batters. Kind of ran out of gas this past week against Auburn. But again, he's a guy they really depend on a lot. And left-handed Ben Harris is another guy, former Virginia player. Transfer, had to set out last year with the transfer rules. He's got ERA under 2, strikes out a lot of batters, and he's going to probably be one of the key guys out of the pen. It's just a question on what they use him. If Georgia happen to have a lead by whatever stretch of the imagination, he'll be probably the first guy out of the pen to try to hold that down. But otherwise, it's been very very spotty. We have again having to pitch 8 freshmen this year. A lot of those guys coming out of the pen just made for some. You really don't know what you're going to get sometimes.
And that leads into the next thing is that a one-run lead, late innings. Arkansas has a guy like Kevin Kopps. I mean,
Yeah.
who is Georgia's guy? Who are they going to turn to in that situation?
Well, it'll be Ben Harris. I think again, Ben is he pitched great at Vanderbilt. He got some key outs with runners in scoring position, and I think nobody got out of a huge jam up there. And again, has been the most consistent of all the relievers. By far. Jaden Woods again, he'll be like a guy they'll put in. They want him to go that 3 or 4 innings. Otherwise, they brought in Nolan Crisp from Florida. He was Florida's closer a couple of years ago, but Nolan just hasn't been as effective. I mean, they hoped he would be a right-hander, real gritty type pitcher. I've been using that word a lot to describe Georgia, but he hasn't been maybe as consistent as they would have liked him to be. So again, the bullpen has been an issue for Georgia, especially these last 3 or 4 weeks. Even though Georgia up until last week had won 3 straight conference series, that's just an area right now that Coach Strickland really kind of crosses his fingers whenever he sends somebody out on the mound.
And then turning the page to the Bulldogs lineup, it looks like Josh McAllister and Connor Tate are kind of the top guys. They're both hitting over 350. They've got 8 and 10 home runs. What can you tell us about those two guys specifically? What have they done this year?
Yeah, Connor Tate's a guy. He's kind of made himself into a very good SEC player. You look at Georgia's lineup, and there's probably not a guy, probably a lot of your fans probably not even heard of. But you look at Connor Tate, and what he has done as a cleanup hitter. Again, he's a guy when he got to Georgia. I figured he would be he might be a spot starter at best, but he's developed into a very solid right fielder. Georgia's most dependable hitter, as you mentioned. He's got 9 home runs right now. I believe 8 of them have been in conference play. So he's somebody who's really, really, really kind of taken off this year for him. You mentioned Josh McAllister, a guy who They call him the JUCO Bandit. I know there's a lot of players out there's got that maybe have that same nickname, but anyway, he's a guy at second base who has a lot of pop. He's been battling, a hamstring issue. There's been a couple of occasions this year where he's had to miss some games. I actually just got back with the most recent one this past Saturday against Auburn and hit a home run his first game back. So he's a guy who will hit at the top of the order. Has got some very good pop, good defensive player. They've got some other guys, other guys too. Garrett Blaylock is a guy who hit 3 home runs in the Vanderbilt series. Kind of struggles from time to time with the breaking pitch. Same deal can be said for the freshman designated hitter Corey Collins, who's a big kid. He's like 6'3", 240 pounds. He's your prototypical left-handed slugger type. But again, he's SEC pitchers are figuring out now that he's having a little bit of trouble with that outside breaking ball. So he's been scuffling with that. And Parks Harbor's another true freshman, 6'3", 250 pounds. Looks a lot like a Bryant for the Cubs, third baseman, built about the same way. He's going to be a very good player moving forward. But again, it's just a young team in certain positions. Riley King's a veteran, the left fielder, hitting over 300. Cole Tate, Connor's twin brother, is took over for Cam Shepard, who started like 197 straight games, every game he played of his Georgia career. So it seems kind of strange to have him out there, but he's done well. But overall, it's been a inconsistent offensive team, I guess, but they do have potential. I mean, it's a team that if it does get rolling, it can have some success.
Yeah, I was going to ask kind of more broadly that offense. When things are going well for them, I mean, what are they doing? Are they a team that likes to work the count and draw walks, or are they more of a
No,
power, or what's their
well,
MO?
they don't really like to draw walks, man. They see a pitch they want to hit, they're gonna be swinging. I mean, that's just the way way it is. Sometimes a little too impatient for Coach Strickland's I think desires, but that's what he tells. No, seriously, that's what he tells them. If there's a good pitch to hit, the pitchers are so good in this league. If they give you something to hit, go ahead and swing. Go ahead and take your shot. So that's kind of how they approach. They will bunt, try to move runners along. They try to play fundamental. They'll shift a lot, man. They are really into the analytics at Georgia. They're big on the track man and all that kind of stuff. And you'll see. I'm sure they'll do a lot of shifting in this game with Arkansas.
Well, I think that's all I got for you, Anthony. And
Hmm.
before I sign off, I just want to remind everybody that, as always, all of our baseball coverage this year is brought to you by CJ's Butcher Boy Burgers. Go check them out in Russellville or Fayetteville. It's a great spot to grab a bite to eat before or after games, or just if you want to grab lunch or dinner someday. So go check them out. They're great sponsors to us at HawgBeat. And just a reminder, this series this weekend, Georgia, it starts on Friday at 6:30 Central. Then Saturday and Sunday's games are at 6 and 2. That Saturday game, you can actually catch that one on TV, SEC Network. So go check them out if you can't make it into Baum-Walker Stadium. Anthony, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to
No
me, and
problem.
hopefully we can catch up soon.
We'll do it. Take care, Andrew. See you.